Welcome to the Wolverine Whisper, the official Wolverine podcast of Michigan Sports and Entertainment. Now here are your hosts, Noah, Ryan, and Seth.
My name is Seth Berry. I'm joined by Noah Poser and Ryan Krause. So we're going to be the three people kind of bouncing off each other and bouncing these ideas off each other and talking Michigan sports. So the first thing we kind of wanted to get into is talk Michigan football first. Obviously 9-1, great position, to get to the playoff and win the Big Ten. Yep, as long as they can get by Indiana and Ohio State, and then see what they can do. Yep, see what they can do with the Big Ten championship game if they get there. But then just recapping the Rutgers game, Michigan got the 42-7 win. Really coming off of three really tough games. Penn State or Wisconsin, Michigan State, Penn State. That's a really grueling stretch. So kind of got a little bit of a break against a Rutgers team there. But just wondering what you guys thought of that game and what you liked from that game from Michigan.
Yeah, one of the things with the Rutgers game, I think that they really showed that they are a team to be reckoned with. They went through that 3-game stretch where they played Michigan State, Wisconsin, and then Penn State, and they got through that, and you're just hoping not for a letdown against Rutgers. The Rutgers, they're not very good, but they're still a college football team. Anything can happen, but Michigan came out and imposed their will. They did whatever they wanted. Even though Rutgers was stacking the box a lot, they were able to still get some good runs, not really with Quran, but as the game wore on, like you've seen in most of the games during the Big Ten season and even the non-conference schedule, they just continued to run the ball and run the ball and run the ball, and eventually they'll break off some big runs in the third and fourth quarters, which has been really huge for them. That's an added element they haven't had in a couple of years.
You got anything to add to that?
I think that Patterson played his best game as a Michigan quarterback, in my opinion, throwing the ball. He looked very sharp and very accurate on almost every throw he made. Didn't make any mistakes. Just kept the ball moving.
Yeah, that was really apparent to me. I think just the way Patterson played, and it was a little bit surprising to me how Rutgers was able to contain Michigan's rushing attack for a lot of the game, kind of until Evans got loose there in the fourth quarter. But I thought watching that game, they put literally 8, sometimes 9 guys in the box, really trying to defend the run and, make sure Michigan just didn't, pound them into the ground 78-0 like they did in 2016. But no, I think Patterson was very efficient. He's been that way all year too. It's really hard to remember the last time he made, a poor decision or a bad throw or, a big, has he thrown? I don't know, mid-season, but he doesn't. He had one, obviously, against Notre Dame, and then, only a couple after that. But, no, just compared to, obviously, everyone talked about the quarterback position in the last few years with Michigan, it being very inefficient and, especially 2016 where, Wilton Speight kind of lost in that Ohio State game. He made a couple bad throws in their own territory and, pick 6 toward the goal line. And it was tough to watch because Michigan really seemed like the better team, but it doesn't seem like Patterson is that type of guy to, go out and make the big mistake. He's very efficient, executes very well, and Harbaugh's offense and looks really comfortable. Then I was just kind of wondering if there's anything you think that will prevent Michigan from maybe accomplishing what they want to accomplish. Like it looks like they're just on a total roll right now and can't be stopped. But obviously we know it's college football. Ohio State's going to be a tough game. Is there anything? What worries you about this team? If there's one thing that say maybe let's slow down a little bit. If you want to touch on that first, Ryan. Right. Noah.
Obviously, the kicking game is a huge issue. as we've all seen throughout the season. Quinn Ordine struggled mightily in recent weeks. So that's definitely going to be something that has to be figured out. Although I think another underrated thing that is being sort of overlooked is the red zone offense is still not meshing on all levels, I guess you could say. They still seem to struggle scoring points once they can get to the red zone and settle for a lot of field goals.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I don't know if it's just me, but I think seeing more of Zach Gentry in the red zone would seem to make a little more sense to me. I mean, I know he probably gets a lot of attention with, being so big and being 6'8", but man, you get that guy in the middle of the field, linebacker, safety, whoever, he's a tough cover. Patterson hit on him on the nice play action against Penn State with a little slant over the middle, so that was good to see. And then Nordine, yeah, I mean, the guy's a good kicker. He can kick the ball. Can kick it from probably 55, 60 yards if he really puts a foot into it, but I don't get it. He just totally shanks it sometimes, right off the top of the ball, into the line of scrimmage. It can be bad. So those are a couple worrisome things, but all in all, I think Michigan's in pretty good shape as long as they play to their ability. And then kind of previewing the Indiana game coming up here on Saturday. Michigan's a 28-point favorite going into that game. So some people are saying, watch out for the trap game, game before Ohio State. You don't want to. Michigan definitely can't sleep in Indiana. I mean, Indiana they're in basically every game. They have a lot of talent on both sides of the ball, so it's not a game Michigan can take lightly. You have, Peyton Ramsey. He has 17 touchdown passes in the year. Very risky player. He also has 11 picks, so Michigan would hopefully be able to, jump some of his passes. And a couple talented wide receivers in Nick Westbrook and Donovan Hale. Hale has 6 touchdowns in the year, 425 and 425 yards, and Westbrook has 3 touchdowns. And their running game is okay too, with Stevie Scott almost having 900 yards on the year and 8 touchdowns. So, I mean, they have talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. So it's a game Michigan can't take lightly. Just kind of want to get your guys' thoughts on Indiana and, what are you looking for in that game from Michigan?
What I expect from the Indiana game is a lot of them just, I think they're really going to have to mix it up a little bit. They're going to have to, with Jim Harbaugh, you're always going to be running the ball. You're going to want to run the ball until it doesn't work, and then mix in some passes. But you have a very capable quarterback in Shea Patterson. So they should come out, and I think the game, even though it's a senior day at the Big House, I think it's going to be tough for them to get going after all those emotions are coming out. But I fully expect at halftime them to have the lead and to make a push for a 2 or 3 touchdown win in the second half, because they, like I said, they can really impose their will with the offensive line that they have and the running backs. They just seem to get better and better as the game wears on. So I believe that the game is close just because the emotions of senior day in the first half, and then Michigan handles business against Indiana in the second half. I think that they just have too many playmakers on both sides of the ball. And even in the return game, they have too many weapons that Indiana's just not going to be able to account for all of them.
No, is there anything you wanted to add?
I think Indiana has a couple things that are going in their favor going into this game. Not only they're 5-5, and they play Purdue the week after this, so they are desperate to try to get to bowl eligibility. And this is a game that they probably think that they might be able to steal with Michigan, focusing on Ohio with the next week. And Peyton Ramsey is very good with his legs, and Michigan has struggled immensely with running quarterbacks in the past throughout the year, even in the opener against Wimbush and Notre Dame. So I think that might be a really big factor in this game. I think Indiana will probably keep it close for the first half, but I think in the second half, Michigan will probably pull away. You got way more talent.
Yeah, I think it's funny that it seems like every year Indiana's bowl eligibility comes down to like the Purdue game. They're always around 5-5, around 500, and then Purdue game, the rivalry game. In Indiana, it's like I have my dad's eye doctor actually goes to Indiana, so we've been to the games up at their place the last couple times Michigan's been there, and the last overtime game, and then um, the one a few years ago where they had the double overtime and Chesson had a huge game, and they just snuck by them there. So, but yeah, Indiana, it's like, get to a bowl game and then we got the basketball team. So like, just get to 6 wins and that's pretty much their expectation. But Indiana is like the best team in the Big Ten at like almost winning. Like they have played everyone tough over the last few years, but just cannot get over the hump. And then they'll have like a game against Rutgers where they'll lose, or a game against, they just squeaked by Maryland last week. But, it seems like they play up and down to their competition. So, yeah, I don't know. They're obviously talented, but there's something missing there because, it seems like every year you're waiting for them to get over the hump, at least, maybe to the 8-9 win mark, kind of like Northwestern's been, recently, but they just can't seem to do it. But, yeah, prediction wise, I think, like say Indiana might keep it close first, second quarter or so. And then, Michigan pulls away. But I think one thing Michigan, they do have trouble pulling away from teams right away because they play at such a slow pace and try to control the clock and all that. So, but this is what Jim Harbaugh does. He has, he knows a game plan going in. That's what Michigan's trying to do. So, even if Michigan does start slow, I don't think this would be a game to panic in. I think they'll win this game by a few touchdowns in the end. So, yeah. And then I just kind of wanted to segue into Tarik Black. He just came back from an injury a couple weeks ago, out the foot injury. It was just kind of he went in and kind of after the Rutgers game, he on the social media account on his Twitter liked some tweets from some fans saying that that pretty much said, why isn't Tarik Black playing more? Why doesn't he get more snaps? He's going to want to transfer or whatever. So, if he doesn't get more reps. So just kind of wondering what your guys' opinion is on that. With Tarik Black, is he going to be worked in the offense more, leading up to the Ohio State game in the Big Ten championship potentially, or, where do you guys stand on that? No, is there anything you want to say?
I think Tarik Black is definitely he's obviously debatably their best wide receiver. And he will definitely, as he gets more and more removed from that injury, I definitely think we'll see a larger increase in playing time over guys like Ronnie Bell and Oliver Martin, who have been great in his absence, but aren't necessarily at the level of Tarik Black, I believe. I think they're just trying to be really patient, work him in really slowly, make sure that he's 100% for when they need him down the line against a team like an Ohio State, instead of rushing him into action against teams like Rutgers or Indiana, who they could probably beat without him. So I think that they're definitely just being cautious. He will continue to see more and more reps. And it'll all be good.
Tarik Black injury, I think that injuries are never fun. And I think he's been very unfortunate. He was balling out against competition last year's freshman season. He had a great game against Florida, and then when he got hurt, it was devastating because we didn't get much production from the wide receivers, but all those wide receivers that played all last year, like Nico Collins and Donovan Peoples-Jones, they've had a full year to get acclimated to the system, and all of this year too. So just the re-injury from Tarik Black didn't really help, and I feel like he's a great playmaker and stuff, so he's going to get his playing time. But right now, when you can rely on Donovan Peoples-Jones, Nico Collins, you got Oliver Martin, Zach Gentry, Sean McEwen, all catching passes, and even Ronnie Bell, they've all shown that they can make plays on offense, that it's smart to really work Tarik Black in slowly, make sure he's not going to re-injure himself. The last thing you want is for him to have something happen these last few games, and then I think they should use the bowl practices to help him get really acclimated with the offense, and maybe he can make a big difference if we end up getting into the college football playoff and have a big game, another coming out party like he did last year in his first game against Florida.
They'll figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's just one thing with coming back from 2 major foot injuries. Like, I know instinctively, like, you want to, as a player, you want to come back and, get all the reps you can right away. And yeah, he's missed a ton of time the last 2 years. So yeah, you want to get out there and, perform and show, kind of show the fans, show your teammates, hey, I'm back. But, it's not always, doesn't always work like that, and like you say, Michigan's had Nico Collins and Gentry and Martin and Ronnie Bell kind of fill in that role, and kind of everyone's, come in to fill his absence. So, and plus they've developed that camaraderie with Patterson throughout the whole season. I don't think there's anything, like against Tarik Black, like, no, we don't want to play you. It's just, it's this thing where they kind of got to ease him back in. So, I think eventually that he's going to, I mean, couldn't you see in the Ohio State game, like him just having a big play in the game, or I mean, he's still an impact player, and, he's still going to get his opportunity down the line. So, I don't think he should be too awfully worried about that. So, is there anything else you guys want to talk about Michigan football wise? And we'll segue right into basketball here if you guys are good. Yeah, I mean, I think people kind of talked about in the offseason, or the critics, that where's the old Harbaugh, and where's he been? And obviously he doesn't like to stir things up, but he definitely likes, if someone comes after him, he'll take a shot back or whatever. And we saw that with the D'Antonio, and whatever side you stand on that, that's Jim Harbaugh right there. That's him. The way he criticized Mark D'Antonio on Michigan State, like that's Jim Harbaugh that Michigan fans, have known to love. So, they're just playing with that swagger, the edge, and I think it really starts with Chase Winovich, just his energy on the defensive side of the ball, and I think he just kind of carries the whole team, and they've had a lot of success, obviously, because of that. So I think we're good in the football end of things. So let's dive into the basketball a little bit here. Michigan 2-0 to start the season. 2 wins. They got pretty easily against obviously inferior opponents, but not the greatest offensive outputs, shooting very low percentages in 2 of the games, and really struggling to find an identity on offense, it seems like. But obviously with the players they lost to graduation and to the NBA, guys like Mo Wagner and Duncan Robinson and Muhammad Ali Abdul-Rahman, I mean, it's tough shoes to fill. So where do you guys see the state of Michigan basketball right now, through 2 games? What are you guys' opinions on how they're looking?
I've liked what we've seen from the Michigan basketball team so far. They seem to be really defensive-minded so far this season. They haven't been able to score at a great clip, but I think that's going to be coming. John Beilein's going to see that, if they don't have as prolific as an offense from 3, that they're going to be mixing in different things to get a lot of high percentage 2-point shots and a lot of driving layups. And John Beilein's been around the game for a long time. He just notched his 800th win, so he's going to be able to get these guys ready for the rest of the season. This is all just preparing them for the Big Ten season and getting ready for what's to come in March.
Yeah, I think there's two players who stick out to me early on through the season, and one of those is Jordan Poole with his ability to move the ball. It seems like it's much improved from last season. He's trying to be more of a playmaker and not just a scorer as opposed to what he was last season. Maybe trying to learn from what Muhammad Ali Abdur-Rahman sort of did last season, trying to focus on moving the ball and trying to find buckets that way. And then Isaiah Livers has looked way better than he looked at the beginning of last season. Not just scoring the ball, but rebounding the ball and just doing the small things in order to help them win the game. He's been way better than I can remember than he looked last year.
Yeah, I think it's a good point about Poole that you make because I really think he's trying to find that balance between being a scorer and also moving the ball and being more of a distributor. And they used him on the pick and roll with Teskey quite a bit so far, and he's found him on rolling the basket a few times. So I think Poole will eventually be Michigan's best offensive player this season. He's inconsistent with that 3-point shot, which is a little bit concerning. But I think he just has to get used to that, having the bigger role, because he was just kind of a come off and get hot off the bench type of guy last year. And obviously being in the starting rotation, it's not just fire shots up. It's, let's move the ball. Let's get in a little bit of a rhythm. And, obviously Beeline still wants to be a playmaker, but, he's just got to find that balance within himself. And I think he will. But then the whole offense as a whole, I think, it'll grow and get better. But defensively, this team can be really elite. I think they got guys who are very athletic, can guard the perimeter. Start with Xavier Simpson on the ball as a defender. We saw it last year all throughout the tournament and throughout the regular season. Really evident against Michigan State in both games last year, how he was really able to, shut down Cassius Winston, and he was a pretty good point guard for Michigan State. So, it starts with him, and I think they're very athletic and can switch a lot of positions, and I think that part will stay consistent, and as the year wears on, they'll get better offensively. And then Wednesday night, they have a big game against Villanova. A lot of people are making a big deal. Obviously, it's the rematch between the national championship game last year. But I think two very different teams we're seeing here. A lot of turnover each way. Villanova pretty much a whole new starting lineup. Michigan a lot of different pieces in their starting five too. But Villanova still obviously a very deep team. You got Phil Booth at guard, averaging 20 a game so far, and that Eric Pascal, the forward, averaging 18.5 a game. So, they're obviously deep, and they still have, very talented players, and Jay Wright is obviously a heck of a coach. So, just kind of wondering what you guys expect from that game on Wednesday night from Michigan.
With the Villanova game, I think that Michigan, they're going to keep it close, but they're not going to be able to. I don't think they'll pull out a victory. I think they'll keep it close until halftime because they have a pretty good defense from what I've seen so far. Obviously, it's not against the best competition, but against Villanova, you're going to be tested. But I think that their defense will hold for the first half at least, and they'll play very close first half, and then the second half, I think that Villanova just has too many guys that play too many minutes, and they'll be able to beat them in a few different ways, and Michigan will struggle to get some baskets down the stretch. They're still trying to figure out who's going to be their go-to guy down the stretch. You had Mo Wagner last year that could get you a bucket pretty much whenever you wanted. He could get hot real quick, so we're going to have to see if that's going to be Brazdakis, the freshman phenom, or if we're going to be relying on Charles Matthews and Xavier Simpson down the stretch of games to get us a bucket.
Obviously, these two teams have two of the greatest coaches in all of America and all of college basketball. And both teams play really well team defense wise. But I think the key to this game for Michigan is they have to be able to keep up with Villanova's offense, because Villanova consistently year after year is always a top offense. They move the ball well. They consistently have 5 or 6 guys that can go out and have a big game. And that will probably be the key to this one. If Michigan has struggled offensively so far, and if they want to have any chance in this game, they're going to have to really step it up on that side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point. It's gonna have to be a game where, you have kind of guys who aren't accustomed to making 3-point shots like Charles Matthews or Xavier, and having to be able to hit a couple from the perimeter this game, or just have someone get really hot like a Jordan Poole or an Isaiah Livers off the bench, because like I said, they are very tough to score with. I think Michigan will try to keep it a slower game. They're always toward the bottom of the NCAA and fewest possessions per game, so they'll won't turn the ball over. If they can not turn the ball over and shoot at a decent clip, and I think they'll be all right. But it's a tough ass to go in there, and try to win the game. So, like Ryan said, I think Michigan will keep it close, but Villanova might take 5 to 7 point victory in the end. But in the last few years, we've seen Michigan really struggle out of conference early in games like this, but I think it only makes them better, as the season wears on. So, I mean, they haven't struggled mightily, but, they'll have a game here and there. Like a couple of years ago, I think at South Carolina, they shot like 19% or something. Like, it was miserable. But, they always end up having a pretty good year after the matter. So, I think it's a work in progress, and, we'll kind of see where it goes. Another note I had is that Villanova has 8 players who are averaging, at least 16 minutes a game. So, I mean, clearly they, like I said, they have a lot of depth, and it might be hard for Michigan to overcome in this one, but we'll see. And then looking ahead to the weekend, they have a 14 tournament. It's the Naismith Memorial Tournament in Connecticut. And Saturday they're playing George Washington at noon. That game can be watched on ESPN3.com. I don't know why they don't put it on TV, but I guess they couldn't fit it in. But so that might, after coming off the Villanova game, it could be a tricky one for Michigan. But George Washington's 0-3. They have losses to, I think they lost to Virginia by 19, and then they lost to Siena and Stony Brook as well. So I think Michigan should be able to take care of business, and then they play their South Carolina and Providence on Sunday. So if they win, if they lose, they'll play the loser. But kind of what do you guys after the Villanova game, what do you guys expect from the weekend in Connecticut for Michigan?
I think that depending on how this Villanova game goes, I think if they somehow find a way to beat Villanova, I personally think that will give them a lot of confidence as they go into this stretch against less talented teams such as George Washington. Well, it's early in the season, and we don't know how George Washington or Michigan are going to turn out as we go through the season. I think it's clear through these first 3 games that George Washington has really struggled against teams that perhaps they probably shouldn't have struggled against, such as a team like Stony Brook. So I think that Michigan, if they beat Villanova, they will probably have a really easy time with George Washington. But I think that if they struggle, as I anticipate they will with Villanova, I think that it will probably take a while for Michigan to get into the groove. So I think they might struggle early throughout the season, including teams like George Washington. They should probably beat pretty handily.
Yeah, and I think by the time Big Ten play comes around, like we see every year from Beeline coach teams, that they're going to be significantly better than what they were, in these first few games. So we'll see. I mean, I think they've, guys like John Teskey, they gotta, we'll see how he can stay out of foul trouble, and if he can if he can really have a big impact this season. And I still don't love like the big men coming off the bench like Austin Davis. Like, still kind of skeptical on him. Like, can he big body, I think pretty good footwork, but does he have, can he really defend down low? Does he have the the strength to him, whatever. So I think he's still a little bit, underdeveloped, has a little ways to go. But so yeah, if Teskey can stay out of foul trouble, that'd be huge. And we'll see if like some of these freshmen, obviously Ignis is gonna have the biggest impact on the team. It looks that way this season. Just his ability to score the ball and shoot and score in a variety of ways. It looks like he'll be the guy out of the freshman class. And then we'll see if like Brandon Johns hasn't gotten a ton of playing time yet, the freshman from East Lansing. But I think eventually maybe he'll find his way into the rotation, but I guess, we'll see. Kind of depends on, the Teskey situation, the big man, and, see if Johnson can kind of fit his way in down the road. Then I think the backup point guard is an interesting thing too. With Eli Brooks has looked good coming off the bench. I know Beeline kind of fell out of favor with him last season. He was playing early on, but then he kind of stopped to Deron Simmons, who transferred over from Ohio for his 5th year last year. But they also got David Julius, who's a talented freshman out of Detroit. So, eventually he could pass Brooks if Brooks doesn't play up to par. So, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Is there anything you guys want to add about, Michigan basketball or really anything that we've talked about?
Yeah, I think their depth in the backcourt with the improvement of Brooks this year, I think that's not going to be too much of an issue for them. I think Brooks has looked good. Poole figure it out. Simpson will always be amazing on defense. It's just a matter if he can find his form shooting the ball. But I think, like you said, Seth, definitely the front court is definitely going to be a big problem. Who's going to be that guy behind Teskey to play big minutes? Obviously, you have Brazdeikis and Livers, but like if you want a more natural center at that position, and while Teskey comes out, it's going to be interesting to see if Davis can make a big leap from last year to this year, sort of like what Teskey did last season.
And one thing, I think the backup center position, I know Noah was talking about this. I can't rely on Austin Davis too much this season. I think maybe they try and work in a couple of the freshmen. Maybe Johns will get some time in Castleton. I mean, if you're playing Johns at the 5, that's a very small lineup. But if he can show that he can play good minutes there and get good production, Beeline's going to be able to find a way to make that lineup work. I just don't think that Castleton is ready. He looks like a twig out there amongst the men. So he's got to get in the weight room. Got to work with John Sanderson there, and he'll be able to add some weight between this year playing throughout the season, getting a little bit of playing time, and then moving into next year. If he adds 15 to 20 pounds of muscle, he'll be in a lot better shape going into the next season.
Yeah, we all know if you get in the weight room with Sanderson, you're gonna, eventually you're gonna come out pretty big with some of the pictures of, some of the guys, that have been in the teams previously. They obviously put on some weight and, look really cut. So he does a good job in that aspect, the strength and conditioning program. Yeah, so I think we touched on about everything. So we'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the first episode of Wolverine Whisper. I hope you enjoyed and hope you keep tuning in to our weekly episodes. So I'm Seth Berry, and with me is Ryan Krause and Noah Poser. Thanks for listening, guys.